Thank you for watching Conscious Consumer Network. The live stream broadcast is free to view. You can pause and rewind live broadcasts to catch up, or view shows at a later date by accessing our free archives of all shows. Check out our broadcast guide to see what's on. You can show your support by donating to our network support fund. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribe to the monthly newsletter for updates. We thank you for supporting free and independent media. The mainstream media and international community have largely ignored the atrocities and genocide that is going on in my home country of South Africa. As economic refugees living abroad, we as independent media fight to expose the truth and find solutions for the many suffering and impoverished people still stuck in South Africa. This is Stop South African Genocide, hosted by Mel V and Karin Smith, live on CCN.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mel V, coming to you live from Conscious Consumer Network headquarters here in Portugal. It is great, as always, to be with you again for this newly scheduled broadcast of Stop South African Genocide, which is going out at 6 p.m. GMT today. And the reason why we have scheduled in an extra show this week is because there's been so much going on behind the scenes that we felt it necessary to bring this information to you as quickly as possible. So before I carry on, I just want to welcome my amazing and gracious co-host, Karin Smith. Thank you for joining us. And of course, thank you very much to our guests for joining us, Gerhardt, Koch, and I beg your pardon, I've forgotten. Gordon. It's great to be with you. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and we obviously, there's been so much happening with everything that's been going on behind the scenes with regards to secession, and we've been seeing a lot of different views from different people, a lot of animosity from people actually involved in it, and a lot of people who are actually trying to stop it from happening. So we look forward to speaking to both of you this evening to discover what your views are, representing two opposing or two different ends of this secession that are actually coming together in unity. So Karin, I'm going to let you jump in here quickly, and please fire away any questions.
Hi, you too, Gordon. Very nice to see you, and Gerhardt as well. Thank you very much for joining us today. As I have explained to you, one of the problems that we've been facing with opposition to the secession is that the king has been the only person who has stood up publicly and spoken about this. And we felt that it was very necessary for the Boer nation and the Anglo nation and the colored nation to stand up and express their views on it, whether for or against. We needed somebody to give validation to this, because we've had so much opposition and so many people telling us that this was just some effort on Mel and my part to do what, I'm not sure. But we created this fake news. So I'm very glad to have you here today. Gerhardt, I interviewed you on my show last night. There's been opposition to that as well. Gordon, I'm very pleased to have you here. You are representing the Euroconers, and Gerhardt in this show is representing the Boer nation. So I think we should start with Gerhardt. Gerhardt, what is the Boer nation? What is the definition of a Boer in this context?
Hi, Karin, Mel, thanks for having me on your show. Yes, what is a Boer? A Boer is basically a settler from Europe, mostly Germanic, okay, and they settled here with the Dutch Verenigde Indische Company, the VOC, in 1652. Jan van Riebeeck came here, and any case, so in that time there was already oppression. Okay, first of all, the Boers fled here to escape from the church prosecution from Europe, and being staunch believers in God, the father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they decided to settle in the southern tip of Africa, and they set up their bases here and things, and obviously the British followed There was a huge fight and oppression. The Khoisan was the first people we met on the southern tip of Africa. And obviously with the English following us here, there was a lot of more oppression. So the Boers in the Groot Track, or the Big Track, they moved north. And at the Fish River in eastern Transvaal, that's where they encountered the Xhosa for the first time. But the hardships didn't stop there. The people moved further north, and there they met nomads that moved down from the north, the Zulus and the Xhosa, and basically that's where the war started. So the Boers are basically people that settled in the southern tip of Africa since 1652, religious people. They work the land. They're actually loving people that just wants to be left alone. I've never heard of one instance where the Boer nation has actually started a fight or caused a war or got involved in a war first. We've never been antagonizers. We've always been the people that retaliate. Now, we are currently not a huge nation. We reckon there's about 4 million whites in South Africa, but not all the whites are Boers or Boer at heart. Now, the definition of a Boer is not necessarily somebody that has moved here in the 1652s or have relatives or a family tree going that far back. I mean, my grandparents, great-grandparents came here during the Second World War, and I was born here. So that is what a Boer is. It's somebody that was born in South Africa, feels that he's part of something and somebody that wants to tend, feed, and nurture. With basically what I'm trying to say is we try to build something, not break it down. We don't want to cause a war. We don't want to cause any strife. We basically want to live in peace and harmony and just have a piece of land that we can tend, grow, nurture. A lot of Boers live in towns, but they have sympathy for white farmers being murdered. So that's what we call something that's Boer at heart. It's like you, Karin, you are sitting there in the States and you care. And that's what it's about for us. It's people that care about what happens to the people at the southern tip, or basically all white people that's got the same tendency to nurture and to feed and grow and basically feed a nation. And with these farm murders, I know during our interview we were having a discussion about the Black Monday show of sympathy. Since that interview, we've had, I think it's either 7 or 10 farm murders last night alone. So it's definitely escalating in retaliation. And that's exactly what we suspected was going to happen. Anything we do as a nation, we get oppressed and we get downtrodden more and more. And the longer we wait for something, it's just going to happen more and more. So that's why we as a Boer nation feel that it's important that we support this secession, because looking at what Kuba has said in his secession document that he signed and that I witnessed as well. I didn't sign any documentation. I was just present at the signing of it. We fully agree with that. But since I don't have a mandate to speak on behalf of the whole Boer nation, I just represent a organization in South Africa called Eendrag Maak Mag. And that is what's been happening in South Africa, because you've got so many Boers, and each one with a different belief, or let's say some believe in Jesus Christ and some believe in Yeshua, some believe in Yahuwah, Yahweh. So there's always names that divides people. You know, religion divides people, race divides people, and then politics. So we firmly stand behind Kubaha with his ideal of having a nation ruled under God, that falls under God, with no political system in it, ruled by the people, for the people, and to tend the land. So that's exactly what Boers feel. They want to tend, nurture, look after the land, look after people, and that, you know, there's so much, how can I say, controversy about Boers. You know, I hear many reports of the black people saying that Boers aren't looking after their people on farms and they mistreat them. But I grew up on a farm, and like I've explained to you, those people on the farm, they could come to my grandparents for anything, medicine, food, yes, even alcohol. But the fact of the matter is that they got tended, they got looked after, and they were happy. I never had an incident where people were mistreated on our farm. Yes, myself as a young Boer, we were mischievous, so we played a lot of pranks, and we got up to mischief, you know, but we've never ever maliciously harmed someone just for the hell of it, you know. And seeing the trend of what's happening in South Africa currently with the farm murders, it's out and out vicious. The way they rape our kids, our wives, how they murder my fellow brothers, the way they burn us, the way they throw us in hot water, burn us with irons. I don't want to go into all the horrific details, but if you've seen the photographs, a lot of people say that's all blown out of proportion. It's not. If you see the police files and the police documentation that's out there, it's all a systematic genocide currently going on. And that's what we, and don't get me wrong, we're not afraid. Okay. There is a systematic genocide going on, and there's a threat of a mass genocide coming. And it's not just a mass genocide of Boers. They can't differentiate between a Boer, a Eurokaner, or anything. It's a white person. You see, so as we generalize and we say black people, it's because of the skin color. So we can't differentiate easily between a Xhosa, a Zulu, even some of the coloreds are very dark skin. The same with them. They can't differentiate between us. There's a lot of English that speak Afrikaans. There's a lot of Afrikaans that speak English. So it's very difficult to differentiate or to know who to kill. So they just shout one bullet, one Boer. But in the end, when it comes down to it, they will kill all whites. And they've said it plenty of times. I mean, if I can quote Julius Malema, where he said it's not Uhuru yet, but we are arriving there. Now, if people don't understand what Uhuru is, it's the night of the long knives. It's a mass genocide where they are actually threatening to go out and kill whites. And yeah, so that's about that for me as a Boer.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll get back to you in a moment. Gordon, there is contention about the word Eurokaner because such a word didn't exist until we invented it. So could you give us your viewpoint on what a Eurokaner is?
Hi, Karin. Thanks for having me here. I think it's important to carry on with Gerhardt's definition of terms and things like that. Now, a Eurokaner is essentially an English-speaking white South African. Now, with coming back to what Gerhardt said about the Afrikaner Boer nation being mainly Germanic in descent and Dutch, and that your English-speaking white South Africans are a melting pot of everything. You know, you've got your English, you've got your Scottish, you've got your Portuguese, your Greeks, your Italians, your, you know, everybody else in the mix. And it basically, Eurokaner defines an English-speaking white South African. By no means we are British at all, okay? Some of us are not even remotely British, Scottish, Italian ancestry on my part. But, you know, so with those definitions, and I agree wholeheartedly with what Gerhardt says, you know, when it comes to the whole black-white issue, it's not a case of, you know, he's white but he's English so he's okay, or he's Afrikaans and he's white and he's not okay. It's a case of you white, end of discussion. You know, and there's, unfortunately, on our side of the fence, there's also a lot of people that feel that way about the blacks, the Indians, and the coloreds, where if they are seen to be as dark-skinned, they're evil. You know, now those sort of people on both sides of the fence need to stay in their own little camps. The whole thing with this secession is basically bringing the unity of everybody back together again, to make everybody understand that this isn't going to work unless everybody's equally represented. You can't have minorities running around, individual minorities claiming this, claiming that, claiming the next thing, because it's not going to work. But if you put all of those minorities together and they stand up in one common voice and say, listen, this is what we want. This is where the buck stops. And this is, I think, what is so important about this secession, is that, yes, we are following Cuba and we are, you know, falling into their way of thinking, but their way of thinking is not that dissimilar to our way of thinking. You know, there is a very strong common ground where the fundamental belief in God and righteousness prevails over everything. And this, to me, is of tantamount importance, that it's not about the individual. As Gerhardt said earlier, that thing that him and Christo gave us when we were in George is absolutely fantastic. It's not about who is right, it's about what is right. And, you know, if people can just understand that mentality and drum that into their heads, we will have something that is going to be a global phenomenon. And as a representative, as requested by the King and Queen, to speak on the Eurocon behalf, Gerhardt's obviously not speaking Afrikaans because it's going out overseas, it's not being done locally, and they wouldn't quite understand him with the subtitle. You know, it's important that we do get the message across, that everybody understands that, you know, yes, we have our own individual diversified religions and belief systems and everything, but at the end of the day, everybody believes in one God. Everybody believes in one justice system, and everybody believes in nurturing your fellow man and creating an environment where kids can play in the streets until the lights come on. You know, that was always our indicator as a kid growing up, that when the street lights come on, is when you go home. You know, so obviously in winter it was better. I mean, in summer it was better because the street lights come on later. You know, but you didn't have this constant fear that you've got to live in a security complex with armed guards at your gates. You've got to be inside that security complex with closed gates and closed doors and everything else. You know, you can't go and sit outside your own property in your own garden at night because of fear of what's going to happen. I mean, no normal human being, it doesn't matter what your skin color is, deserves to live like that. And that's exactly what's happening in this country at the moment. I mean, you can't, you know, if you have a social gathering with friends now, because I know this happened a couple of years ago, but it started happening again now, where people have a get-together, they have a braai, and all of a sudden you have 13 or 14 of these guys coming, flying over your wall, holding everybody up, raping the woman, burning, as Gerhardt said, burning the hell out of everybody, shooting left, right, and center, and for a 4,000 Rand plasma TV. You know, inevitably that's what they get away with in a couple of cell phones. I mean, most of these robberies and that they say are robberies, you know, the guys never get away with more than 4,000 or 5,000 Rands worth of goods, which if you take the Rand-dollar exchange rate, makes it sound even more pathetic. You know, it's less than $500 worth of stuff, but they're massacring an entire family to get away with this. You know, and this is the sort of thing that needs to come to an end, because being in South Africa for 47 odd years, I've seen people's temperaments on both sides of the fences. I mean, an uncle and aunt of mine had a farm in the Eastern Cape that I used to spend every available school holiday that I could go on, I was on. You know, I unfortunately being born in 1970, grew up in the hospital of the apartheid system, and I didn't even know what it was until I was in high school. You know, I know we didn't have black neighbors, we didn't, but because, you know, government kept us separate. And government also kept the English-speaking and the Afrikaans-speaking kids separate while forcing us into individual schools. You know, so that's where also, I mean, Karin can attest to it. When we used to play rugby against each other, if we ever played rugby against an English and Afrikaans school, it wasn't a case of who won the game, it was who won the fight. You know, it was like, you know, you scored more points for sending the opposing team's guys off the field on a stretcher, you know, than what you did actually focus on the game. And that's just how it was. That's how we grew up. But I think in hindsight, now that we've gotten older, we've actually realized that, you know what, at the end of the day, we human beings, we need to be able to survive. We need to be able to make sure that our families are safe, our children are protected, our children have a decent education so that they can actually get somewhere in life. I mean, the fact that the current government has done away with the apprenticeship training program. I mean, all of your kids that are not academically inclined have got nothing to do because there are no decent apprenticeships anymore. I mean, I remember when I did my first apprenticeship, we were handpicked. I mean, we were getting calls from AT&T and Marbell and all the rest of them that as soon as we qualified to go over to the United States to go and work there as technicians because our standard of training was so high. You know, the same with plumbers, electricians, all the rest of it. And that's all been done away with because it was a white thing, you know. And I don't understand government's justification in that.
You know, Gordon, that's so funny you should say that because on our show yesterday, Skalka and Amaba was saying exactly the same thing, that we are producing far too many academics with a 30% pass rate that will never find a job because they do not have skills. Now,
I mean, if you, Mike Rowe, okay, is personally one of my heroes. You know the guy from Dirty Jobs? Okay, I love Mike Rowe. I think that guy has got a brain on him that is scary. And he's the one that even in the United States at the moment is pushing things for, you know, vocational training. I mean, if you look at it, like if a child goes to college, for example, he will do a 3 or 4 year degree, whatever, come out, he's got $250,000 or $350,000 worth of debt, walks into a job where he earns, if he's lucky, $23,000 a month. But most of the kids think because they've got a college degree, they're going to be the CEO within a month, you know, or they're going to start as the CEO. Now, you take a guy that, for example, that does a welding apprenticeship. You know, he goes and does his welding apprenticeship. He does a 3-year apprenticeship training program through a business. Okay, he qualifies as a welder. He's got no debt whatsoever because he's been working while he's been studying. As soon as he qualifies, you know, he's already earning 3-4 times than what a college student is doing articles or whatever, and continues to carry on earning. Now, the problem I've got with that is I've got nothing against the arts and all the rest of it. But I honestly feel from an education point of view, if you're going to do a beneficial education, like become a doctor, an architect, a lawyer, not always a lawyer, but, you know, a nurse, or, you know, you're going to become a welder or you're going to do something, that education should be free. I honestly think that training in that degree should be free. But if you want to go to university to study fine arts and hug trees and wrap yourself in bubble wrap and look for a safe place, you need to pay for that. I'm sorry, because you're wasting everybody's time at that university, and when you finish, what are you going to do? Become an art critic.
So
it just does not make sense. People need to learn how to work with their hands. I mean, we used to have an awesome thing when I was in school called Felt School, where you did it, I think it was in Standard 5 and Standard 8.
Yeah.
Standard 5 and Standard 8. And then you get taken out into the bush. You learn how to build, you know, you get taught how to build a shelter. You got to filter water. You got to do all sorts of cool things. You learn how to play clay light, all that sort of thing. And that was part of your education. That's not there anymore because it's a white thing. Now, if you're going to teach kids survivability skills, it's not necessarily the skill that you're learning, but it's the way of thinking that you're learning. And these kids today are not being taught that.
Yes.
Everything is going to be given on a silver platter. Mom and dad can keep on paying. I can live in the basement and I'm cool. And you know what? Life doesn't work like that.
I absolutely agree with you, but I'd like to move on to the way that the country is going to be ruled, and I'd like to bring Gerhardt back in here, because with each post having a representative from each nation involved. Gerhardt, what is your take on that? Given the state of South Africa today with the state capture and the Gupta story and the corruption and the theft, what do you think about the plan for how the Good Hope will be ruled?
Karin, we like the plan. As you know, in our previous interview, I mentioned there was a document done by Paul Kruger. I'm sad to say the man has leukemia now, but I wanted to get him involved.
Yeah, you forgot to mention not the dead Paul Kruger, the live Paul Kruger. Because when we think Paul Kruger, it's the guy with the big black hat, and he's no longer with us.
Yes. Now, I'm going to focus on this book. Look at the title there. You see the title?
Yes.
Okay. This is the cover of the book. Now I'm going to read. It's the settlement of the Boer Afrikaner people's claim to territorial self-determination, inviting international intervention. It's a memorandum by the Volksraad to the international community. Now, if you go through this book, and it's on their website, it outlines exactly how we arrived in this country, who we found here, the Khoisan, and how we spread in the southern tip of Africa. We spread up as far as the equator. And since then, or since the oppression and things that happened in our history, the Boer Afrikaner, or the Boer nation, they hate being called Afrikaners because the blacks associate themselves with Afrikaner these days. We are Boers.
Now, and because of the cat, what says is Afrikaner?
In any case, there's been an attempt for the Boers to get their own self-determination, but we've never been recognized as a First Nation, okay? And we agree with that. We were never a First Nation in the southern tip of Africa. That's the Khoisan. But the Khoisan stretched, if correct me if I'm wrong, Gordon, but they even stretched up as far as the equator, okay? And they were pushed down by the warring northern black tribes, okay? And then, sadly to say, they met us down here. And it started off very peacefully, but then a lot of the infighting started, and listen, that Boer's little sheep or cattle looks good, and then eventually fighting broke out amongst the Khoisan and the Boers. And even though the Boers feel that they've bought the land, yes, we agree. You know, in those days there wasn't fair trade, but like I've explained to you, Karin, if you sell your car today, you determine, or the seller pays the value of the car, and you accept it as the seller. So in those days, yes, in today's eyes, the people don't think it was a fair trade, but to the guy that actually sold his piece of land in those days, and remember, if the Khoisan believed in those days that the land does not belong to them, it belongs to God. It wasn't theirs to sell in the first place. Now, with this Khoisan secession, we agree fully with what they say. And if you look at what their secession document states, as for reasons, they actually put in there the genocide of the Boers, you know, or the whites. They want to stop that. They actually want a peaceful secession. And what's wrong with doing something that you believe in that you feel you've got every right. They tried a land claim, and that was rejected. Now, the Boers tried it a couple of times. We tried it with the Western Transvaal and failed miserably. We tried it recently. I think they had until the 31st of May 2017, which is our Republic Day, to respond. And I mean, we turned to everybody, even the international community. Now, along here comes the Khoisan with King Kuba, and he says exactly on his secession document what we wanted in the first place. Now, unfortunately, there's no specific region set out for the Boers in that, but at least this whole Good Hope will be safe for the Boers to do what they really want to do and have a passion for, and that is to farm, nurture, cultivate, and to love their animals. You know, not that we are sheep shaggers, we just love our animals. You know, we feel that God gave us the ability to raise and nurture and feed a nation, and we just want to cultivate that. And not all Boers become farmers. As Gordon said, we're great at working with our hands. We're known for a saying, a boer maak 'n plan. That means a boer makes a plan. It's because we've got an IQ of more than 75. I don't want to say what I'm comparing that to, but in any case, you can look at an average white South African with an IQ of 100 plus. Okay, so that means they've got some bit of brains and they can use it. With other words, they can build and not break down. They like to improve and better themselves. And this is what the secession is offering us. King Kuba is offering the South Africans, the Boers, the Eurokaners, the Khoisan, and the Colored Nation to come and help build the Good Hope for the good of the land and the people. And if you feel in your heart, you can contribute to building the land and the people and lift them up out of poverty. And that's why he's inviting all of us to help with this. Now, I've spoken to a lot of people just at a meeting this weekend as well, and there's not one individual that will speak for the whole group. But I tell you what, each individual that I've spoken to supports the secession. Okay, there is a couple of oddballs, and those are the ones that can't, how can I say, they are so staunch in their religion that if I call God Yahuwah, they will get upset and say, hey, that's not his name. Where me myself, when somebody uses the term Jesus Christ, which I feel comes from the Roman Catholics, and I saw a video the other day of a mass that they intoned that in a bad way, and I can't live with ending my prayer with Jesus in the name of Jesus Christ, I say in the name of Yeshua. So obviously now the people think you're an Israeli vision or from some sect. No, I just believe we have gone wrong. And where we have gone wrong is we've stopped putting God first. Yes, a lot of people call him different names, but Kuba hits the nail on the head. He calls him the father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that is what he mentioned in his secession document. And that is what caught my attention for the first, at our first meeting. And then I read through these documents and I said, hell yes, I agree with this and I can live with that. And if I can live with it, and I felt that a lot of South Africans or Boers can live with that as well. So I've taken that document and I've spoken to quite a lot of people. And I can tell you now about 98% to 99% of the people that have read the document and fully understand it agrees with it. And so many people have contacted me and said, you guys are doing a great thing. We hope it succeeds. So I took that as a confirmation that this is a good thing and I can go ahead and speak. I might not speak on behalf of a majority because a majority doesn't even know about this secession because, like I've mentioned in our previous interview, SABC 1, 2, and 3 is owned by the government. ETV is owned by COSATU, if I'm correct, Gordon.
Yeah.
And then ANN 7 is owned by the Guptas, which is in bed with Zuma. So in this country, you're not going to get any television.
No free media.
And the printed media is owned by the Jews, and the Jews are the aggressors. They are in control of the printing presses. So we are not going to get good press in South Africa or any press at all. All we're going to get is another slap in the face, maybe some more oppression, maybe a more increase in farm murders because we tried something now. We are not a nation to take things lying down. And obviously they want to try and beat us down some more. So I suspect King Kuba wants a peaceful secession. And he said it in so many words that he doesn't want genocide. He doesn't want a war. He doesn't want anything. But I'm afraid that the ANC will not let this be a peaceful secession. And for that, we will be ready to defend with our lives because we believe actually in the secession.
Thank you, Gerhardt. Now, from your point of view, Gordon, how do you feel about the way it's been set out in the documents for the country to be run?
Cuba's document is the one that needs to be focused on here, not the other ones floating around, because there's a lot of disinformation being thrown out there by certain parties about how things are going to work and all the rest of it. And this needs to be nipped in the butt like right now. And I might be inundated with funny phone calls and that and all others, I don't care. The way Cuba has set it out is that each department, so to speak, let's take, for example, agriculture. Each department, like agriculture, will have a representative of the Khoi, there will be a representative of the Coloreds, there will be a representative of the Afrikaner Boervolk, and there will be a representative of the Eurokaner. Now, with having 4 heads of a department, immediately eradicates corruption, because one person can not push through his own agenda. When all 4 of those parties agree to something, that then gets taken to the Executive Council, which is a council that also consists of a Khoisan representative, a colored representative, Afrikaner Boervolk, and the Eurokaner. Okay? Once they've agreed, they then ratify it, pull it apart, send it back for reworking, whatever. If they then agree to it, it then goes to the king and the king's council. They then decide, okay, it's a good idea, it's in benefit of the nation and the people of the nation, let's go ahead with that project or with that change in legislature or whatever. So there is a due diligence process throughout the whole thing. Whereas now, you've got one individual sitting there saying, okay, let's build a power station. I'm making a couple of bob on the side, push it through Parliament, get it done. That is not in the best light of what is good for the nation. I mean, the fishing industry in and around Koeberg, for example, down in the Western Cape here, is totally obliterated. I mean, they've caught Chinese fishing trawlers in our marine sanctuaries catching fish. These guys are hauled into the harbour in Port Elizabeth and they're given a 5,000 Rand fine and sent merrily on their way. Okay? This is the level of corruption and things that are happening in this country is absolutely frightening. Whether the president is aware of it or not, I don't know because I don't know him personally, but it does reach every single aspect of it. I think that this system of governance that Kuba has put down is the only way that this country will be fair to everybody in it with equal representation in every single department. And fair in the sense of that, as like he always says, he says, he's the king of the Khoi. He's not the king of the Afrikaner Boervolk. He's not the king of the Eurokaner. He's not the king of the Colored. He's the king of the Khoi. He's the Gaub. So in other words, he's not the main one. and you've got all other little people that think they're kings underneath him. Now, the important thing to realize with that is that we are not serving, and I know particularly Gerhardt can attest to this, is that the I wouldn't say staunch right, because they're not right-wing, they just, your staunch Afrikaner culturalists, for lack of a better word, Gerhardt, are, you know, have this religious rhetoric, and so do I, that you do not bow to a king. There is only one king, and that is God. Okay, however you call him. Okay, there's one king, and that's God. And Kuba, in every single meeting I've attended with him, has said, but you don't bow down to me. Who am I to demand that you bow down to me? I am, as he puts it, the custodian of the land and the people on the land. So whether you are a Khoisan, a colored, a Eurokaner, an Afrikaner, an immigrant, whatever, his job at the end of the day is to make sure that everything here that happens for the benefits of the nation and the people within the nation, irrespective of who you are. And this is what people need to realize, is that this isn't a Khoisan thing. It's not a, you know, we're not all of a sudden going to, you know, start running around with bows and arrows and doing all that sort of stuff. He wants everybody to have the right to self-determination. So if you've got a bunch of farmers, for example, that want to go and buy 50,000 hectares in the middle of the Karoo, build their own church, build their own schools, have volksspelen and do whatever you want to, that's up to you to do it. Okay? It's not him to say, no, you can't do it, you have to have 15 black neighbors. You know, or you have to have this guy living there, you have to have this guy living there. Because, you know, it's like the tiger in the cage theory. You can have a tiger in a cage and leave the door open and he'll never leave the cage. But as soon as you close the door, he's going to want to leave. And that's exactly what's happening in South Africa. I mean, you guys know, I mean, you too, as expats know as well, the massive brain drain that has happened in this country. I mean, for God's sake, we've got to get doctors from Cuba to fill up our government hospitals. Okay, I haven't met one. I don't know how, you know, what their level of qualification in that is. But, you know, I did not go to a government hospital. I'm sorry. Because I actually had to go to one a couple of weeks ago. And, yeah, it's not for me. And a lot of people, you know, this is the problem, is that there's no ground level care for people. You know, teachers arrive at school at 10 o'clock in the morning, or if they even feel like going up for work. You know, so students aren't getting a proper education, being pushed to. Now, all of a sudden, mathematics is being dropped as a mandatory subject. Okay, so besides the fact that they can read and write, not going to be able to count either. And this is just a student thing. This is a white, India colored, whatever you want to call it. This is a South African student thing that is happening. This is the problem. You know, I think this whole inclusive system, this whole inclusive society, we are going to create in sovereign state Good Hope is going to be one of the most dynamic, one of the most awesome places in the world to live.
I absolutely agree with you. Mel and I looked at the paperwork and we discussed it and just was so filled with joy and hope that something was going to be a lighthouse for the rest of the world to follow. And that is why we threw our resources behind this, because at the end of the day, if we do not do this, what is left for white South Africans and coloureds and all the minority groups in South Africa? What is left?
Can I just pop in here and comment on that, Karin, because it's very important to understand that there is a lot of legitimacy, I mean, a complete legitimacy to what is being done. I mean, I can only speak from my own personal experience as an independent media journalist. I've had a number of organizations who've tried to suck me in, get me involved as a representative or as a spokesperson, or because they wanted to, you know, benefit off my social equity or from the people who listen to me. whatever. But I have been involved in a number of different organizations that have all tried to go about doing things, perhaps some more legitimately than others, and then others, some of them outright frauds. So I think I've been around the block enough times to kind of recognize what works and what doesn't, and to understand that we still have a certain system in place within which whatever we do has to fit. That is the legal system, the international law systems, if we are to have these things recognized. And the very brilliant thing about all the paperwork and the secession documents is that they're all absolutely legitimate, lawful, and not just something, a native Khoisan man drew up one day and decided, I'm going to do something crazy. This has been guided from people who are academic scholars. Professor Nagin at the highest levels has himself been involved in this kind of situation before, which I think has, to a certain extent, given this whole process a lot of legitimacy. And for those people who are questioning whether this is a legitimate process, it is legitimate, it's lawful, and under international law, United Nations law, African Union law, and policy, everything adds up, everything is in place. It's just a case of getting the final bits into situ so that we can take this to the next level.
Sorry, Mel, I just come in. The big demand is obviously because of the lack of being manipulated by the powers be. She spoke at length about traditional councils and all that. They all do make the traditional leaders government peace. The big obstacle at the moment is to complete the system is to get an international country to recognize the system. And I think hopefully with this, somebody will see it, we'll be able to get the letters out and we'll be able to
Gordon,
actually step and say, this is now it.
Gordon, you're making a very, very important point here, but you're breaking up, so we didn't hear one word in 4 out of that. But
okay.
it's a very important
what I'm going to do now, I see it on my, let me reset. Give 2 minutes and I'll come back again.
Okay, because you need to repeat that point. It's very important.
No, you see, with my intelligence, I could break up every word there. I'm just joking. He's basically saying...
I'll be back now.
Okay.
What Gordon is basically saying is that in this whole process, we just need the ability or the funds or somehow get that final document signed or the recognition from one other country, be it a union nation or an African nation, to sign off on this secession. And he's saying he hopes that with this broadcast that maybe somebody in the power that can sign a document like that sees it, see the legitimacy, and that there is support for it. I think, Gordon, that's what you said in that breakup voice of yours.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know, that's like my house went through a tunnel again. It's basically what it boils down to is that at the present point in time, we need to be able to be mobile. And this is where the whole, and I know it's the ugly stepchild in the closet type situation, but it boils down to the funding. Cuba, with everything that he's been doing, has exhausted whatever reserve funds he had. Everything that I've been doing, the running around I've been doing for a year and a half, being misled by another supposed king, cost me a small fortune. So from a financial standpoint, this is where we need to start getting minor funding. I'm not talking millions and millions of dollars. I'm talking, we have at the moment a need to raise between $15,000 to $20,000 to be able to get Cuba to be able to go and see certain people regarding the secession letters. There are a couple of people that have said they will have a look at it, they'll meet with him and they will sign it. And then obviously we need to get him from there straight to the United Nations, from wherever that country is. And that unfortunately costs quite a bit of money. And he's not traveling like a South African minister with an entourage of 50 people. He's taking 4 people with him and that's it. And 2 of them are representatives, but also know how to protect him. And, and that's what we need. So it's not going to be this massive party, pomp and ceremony thing and all the rest of it, because that's just fortunately what his personality is like as well. He wants to get things done. We want to get things done from a white English-speaking South African perspective. And all of the friends that I've spoken to have all said, please God, it cannot happen any sooner than now. And Gerhardt's people feel exactly the same way. So there's this massive swing, but the biggest problem at the moment as well is that people, for whatever rhyme or reason, politically, financially, South African whites as a whole have been victimized for so many years with everything from trying to find a job to trying to do anything, that they are too literally scared of standing up and saying this and this is it. And they need that leadership in place to say to them, okay, now's the time.
Gordon, I want to interrupt you there. Remember, since 1994, with the BEE and the BBE, that was part of the ANC's plan in any case, to make us poor, to basically take the power away from us. So your Boer nation is not as rich as they used to be. And remember, the Boers have never gone for richness. That is your Freemasons and the Afrikaner Broederbond Boers. They are the rich ones, and they are not going to support this because they are on the gravy chain with the ANC in any case. Yeah. You see. Let's take this weekend, for instance. I mean, for the past couple of, I'm not going to say how long I've been busy with this, but just this weekend alone, if I equate that to dollars, it cost me and my family about $500 that I've taken away out of feeding my family. And me not having a job for 2 years and just busy with trying to get, how can I say, self-determination for the Boer nation, it's cost me a small fortune. And I mean, with no income, and you are basically downtrodden, you're a white person, so I can't even open up my own company if it's not BEE registered, because I won't get any contracts. With my education and my qualifications, unfortunately, the oil price dropped low, and I lost my job with Chevron. But to me, that was a blessing from God, because if I was still working for Chevron, I would never have been involved in what I'm being involved now. And I feel what I'm involved now is more important than having a job and money. I'll rather be a poor but a happy Boer on a farm, tending my own land and making sure my family is safe. So I have dedicated my life. I've made it my goal. I get to make sure that my family is safe. And if I can look after my family and make sure they are safe, then the Boer nation would be safe. And I want to do this all under God, because that's what we believe. And I mean, that's small steps at a time. But I just want to point out that everybody's got this thing of white privilege. There is no such thing amongst the Boer nation and people that's not part of the brotherhood. You know what I'm talking about, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Broederbonders. If you're not part of that system, you are poor. And those organizations are not going to help unless it benefits them. I wouldn't be surprised if they jump on board once they see that this is going to be a successful thing, and they will try and get on board. And that is what will be the power of having the 4 nations governing together, because that will basically cut down corruption. How can I say, well, what's the correct English word for kyk na jou boetie? What is that English nice word again?
What? Sorry, say it again.
Nepotism.
No, not narcissism.
Oh, nepotism. Yeah.
Nepotism.
There you guys go. I didn't want to use the new. Just now they say I'm a new Nazi. You know, I didn't want to start off with the nay.
No, nepotism is when you employ your buddies and your family.
That's it. You see.
Yeah. Look, in all honesty, I must just say, Karin, just quickly, I believe in nepotism. If you've got a brother or a son or something that can do the job, by all means, get it. But, you know, if your kid's a dumbass, what are you going to do? You can't have him working in a company or in a department that's going to literally destroy.
Yeah, I don't believe in nepotism at all, Gordon. Yeah. You know, that's the start of all evil. Once we start looking after somebody, I always feel the best qualification.
And they're gone again. Hello.
Yeah, no,
Can
Gordon.
I jump in here quickly? Whilst we're trying to get everyone back on track, I do want to speak to your comment there, Gerhardt, about the fact that yes, the people who do benefit absolutely are the people who are, you know, kowtowing down to the globalist agenda. It's the Illuminati, control, Broederbond, Freemasons, all of that. And like you said, if this becomes a success, yeah, they're absolutely going to jump on board, but they're going to jump on board with the intention of usurping control of the entire process. And this is something that I'm very pleased to hear you talking about, because obviously the king will be advised of these people and how they operate, and hopefully you know, the people involved in the secession, the key people, will know better than to allow any infiltration or manipulation by these groups, which should usually come in the form of some money. I mean, now we're at a vulnerable stage where actually, you know, the king needs funding to go to the various countries and get them to agree and sign off on the secession. And this is the opportunity right now where these people can step in, offer their help with the intention of perhaps taking control later. And as we've already discussed earlier, there seems to already be people making these kind of plays in this process. So it's very important that we recognize that there is a lot of manipulation behind the scene. There is definitely, and I'm pleased that you mentioned, yes, the Broederbond, the rich Afrikaners, those who are not suffering are absolutely caught up in the globalist agenda and are playing to that agenda. And if they don't, they'll have everything taken from them. So the only reason they're safe in the South Africa that we're currently looking at is because they're protected from the dark side.
That's it, Mel. You've got it as well. Now, notice one thing, the attack that we've had from the Freedom Front Plus, okay, which is a known Broederbond organization. And as soon as they saw Kubaha's whole agenda where he said no political party, they knew that this is not going to work. They're not going to fit into a no political party system, because then you cannot manipulate. You see, so obviously as soon as they heard that, a statement came out to say, oh, this is a hoax, it's an April Fool's joke. And they made a public statement, and that got a lot of press, you see. So obviously they've got an agenda. They're afraid of this. If this succeeds, and if it's done right and guarded right and done according to the word, the scriptures, and I feel with a person like Kubaha and with the right people advising him, this can be a very great system for the people, for the land, and it can be the new Ethiopia, or what? The new Garden of Eden, you see. And remember what I've briefly mentioned, Sina van Rensburg, that's part of the prophecies. The southern tip of South Africa is going to become a new haven. It's going to become a Christian nation that the world will respect, love, and look up to. If they give us a chance, this is what can happen. And I mean, it was prophesied, so I believe it is going to happen. If it's going to happen with the secession, we don't know. You know, God's way of working is so mysterious and wonderful, but it's still in his plan. And I tell you what, with his help and everything, this will succeed.
Yes, I do want to talk a little bit more about Sinner van Rensburg's prophecies and what we've seen play out so far. If you wouldn't mind just giving a little bit of a brief history on Sinner van Rensburg and some of the prophecies which we've seen come true recently.
Okay, now, Sinner van Rensburg, or Oom Nicolaas, as so many people have spoken about it, the Suidlanders, everybody else, but he was a Boer prophet. Okay, now a Boer prophet that helped the Boers during the Anglo-Boer wars against the British, and so many things, you know. He almost had a Moses moment where he led the Boers through a river from a sandbank that God showed him in a dream. And the Brits that followed him drowned. I think 200 drowned on that day in that river. So out of his prophecies, let's make it 100% prophecies. Thus far, between 70 and 80% of his prophecies were spot on. Even the fall of the NP government, the fall of apartheid, the black government that's in power now. He's prophesied that the Western Cape will have its own government. Okay, be it this government or what they call the Doornbos government, we don't know. But one of the things he touched on that was so interesting to me was he mentioned in his prophecies, and there was a guy that wrote about it, Oom Adrian Snyman, and he's got this all documented. And I've had conversations with him about this, and I had a conversation recently with Paul Kruger that made this book, or this that I showed previously on the show. And he said he went to Germany, and the Boers are waiting on 3 blue tracks that was apparently given to the Germans for Dutch West Africa, which is now Namibia. But those documents were never signed. So the people are going to wait a long time for 3 blue letters to come. And the funny thing is, the day of the secession on the 21st of September, the black ink toner ran out and the 3 blue letters got printed out. Was that coincidence? Was that providence? Or was that maybe part of what Sinner van Rensburg saw? And you know what he said? The first letter, that's the secession document, was sent out and the people didn't take it serious. Okay. And nobody took it serious. And the second one went out, and I take it that is going to be the Constitution. Okay. And he said, oh, the people will suddenly sit up and take notice. And he said, but when the third blue letter arrives in Parliament, they will basically get angry, or hulle sal uit mekaar uitspat. What is that in English? They will scatter. Okay? So it will cause great consternation. I hope this is this. Okay? Because this poor nation and all the oppressed people have been waiting for something to happen. Because in the past, since 1994, what they've seen was not, what was promised was not delivered. All they've seen is an increase in murder, an increase in poverty, promises made, promises never kept, state coffers being plundered. Nothing has materialized what the government has promised them. So now you've got a disillusioned nation out here. And typical like us in the past, I know, people usually vote what the parents vote or what the grandparents vote because that's what they call tradition. So that's how the NP always stayed in power. Okay? And this is the same with the ANC. They don't give a damn if these guys screw up. All they need to get is another promise. Hey, here's some free education. I promise you, next year you're going to get free education. You're going to get free land. Because without land, you're nothing, you've heard all the ridiculous statements coming out of the leaders from the country at the moment, and the masses follow that because they want to believe that it's possible, but it's not achievable. So, Sinner van Rensburg said a lot of things that came true, and I feel this is part of that vision. Some agree, some don't. the nice thing, or how can I say the sad thing is about a prophecy or prophecies, is that you never know beforehand what it's going to be. But in hindsight, you can say, damn, that's what it meant. You see, so I think in a couple of years down the line, hopefully not too long, we're going to look back and say, damn, that man was a good prophet, because so far, everything that's been happening with the secession, to me, strokes with the prophecies. I'm going to enlighten you about one thing more. Now, in his prophecies, he says he sees in a Karoo, from as far as the eye can see, tents. Now, I'm hoping this is tents from either settlers coming from the north or Christian settlers from all over the world, realizing this is one of the safest places to be. With a third world war threatening, where do you want to be but South Africa? I tell you, look at the nuclear fallout that they expect in the north. Look at your hurricanes. Look at all your safe zone. This. Look at Yellowstone in America. There's no hurricanes here. There's no tornado. Well, lately we have. Maybe that's part of God's biblical prophecies as well in the end times. Lately we've seen some strange things happening here with the weather. But that's all in the prophecies, be it from Sina van Rensburg or from the scriptures, which is Revelations. We are moving to the end times, and we feel that all this fits perfectly into God's plan.
Thank you very much for that, Gordon. Gerhardt, we want to obviously encourage people to support the succession and to, speak about it a bit more. How would you go about actually encouraging people to do this? What can people do who want to get involved and who want to help?
At this moment, we need, unfortunately, that's the one thing, is a financial support. Now, like I've said in a couple of meetings, okay, if anybody has the wrong motive, okay, if anybody wants to enrich themselves, so this is not a hoax. This is not anything. It's for no self-enrichment. It's a valid cause. There are people being killed here on a daily basis. So we need at this moment financial support to make the secession happen. Okay, not to enrich ourselves. So we're not looking for millions. I'm not looking for a UN food program that's going to cost some other poor country billions. I don't want you to feed us. What we need is, even if they pay for the freaking plane tickets or the fuel or anything like that, I personally guarantee that I will be with Cuba every step of the way. Damn, if I had the money, I'd pay the fuel myself. I'd buy the cars and take him, but I don't. I've got a family to look after. I've got a farm to look after. There's a lot of things happening in my life that makes it impossible. Is that, I don't know, it's so currently we need some funds, and they can ask for, how can I say, decent financial statements. They can audit it. I don't care, but we don't even need a lot. I think Gordon mentioned, what did he mention? $15,000 or $20,000.
Yeah, $15,000-$20,000. Karin, I think there also what has happened a lot is that we've been getting people setting up PayPal accounts left, right, and center that Cuba has no control over. At the end of the day, this is to get the financing together to be able to make sure that the secession happens. Now, I've actually asked him to go online and to register a PayPal account himself that he has control over. Obviously, everything will be audited. Financial statements will be available. Receipts will be given. Everything, just to reiterate what Gerhardt said, it's a thing to make everybody rich. We're not looking for that. We just need the means to the end. So if we can raise the $15,000 to $20,000, you know, like I said, there will be a full written in one of our mandate delegates has put up, you know, certain types of artworks and stuff like that are, in my personal opinion, worth a hell of a lot more money than that, as surety in form of like collateral to be able to borrow the money to get done. You know, this is the level of commitment people have at the moment, that they're willing to sacrifice things that they've had for years in order to get this going. And this is where our big crux at the moment is, because like I said, everything is in place that needs to be in place. All we need to do is to be able to travel, to get a letter of recognition from a foreign state, and then to get to the United Nations, which we unfortunately have to do for the rest of the community to see it. I mean, my personal opinion on the United States, I mean, not in the United States, in the UN, is that they left out the rest of the UN thing, because I always say it's unless we benefit, we're not involved. You know, that's what it should say on the basis, but it's supposed to be the United Nations. You know, so we've got to follow the legal steps, and then this is what is so important. What people need to realize with this whole system is that every single step that has been taken, and every single step that will be taken, is according to international law 100% above board. We're not going into this thing with any sort of hidden agenda or shadow governments being formed, or, as somebody put it, have the king gather a pension of 10% of the taxes collected so he can, you know, rise up the Khoisan nation. That sort of thing is not going to happen. But we're all in it to make it work. You know, and people need to know that this is laid out step by step by step, and everything is done. I mean, Professor Nagin, who's a juris consult, you know, a juris consult, basically, for the viewers that don't know what it is, you can Google it, but my perception of it is that if you don't understand the law, you go to this guy, and he says to you, that's what that law means. And that's it. It's not negotiable further. Now, if somebody has got that sort of level of legal qualification, and he is turning around saying nationally and in letter that is written and given out there that this is legal, who the hell is going to turn around and say, but what you're doing is illegal, you can't be doing it, okay, because it's being done. This is the point. It's being done, whether they like it or not, whether they're going to keep hacking my Wi-Fi router. That's happened 3 times now during this. You know, it's pathetic at you know, the level of their attempts that they're getting this thing to stop, and it's not going to work. And that is also why the government has gone after anybody involved in this from a legal point of view, because we've done nothing illegal. Everything we've done has been legal and been above board. Okay, the guys that are paranoid and worried about they're going to go to jail for treason, they are the idiots that have been drafting documents and putting stuff out on the internet that is basically bordering on trying to develop a coup. Okay, and Karin, you know who I'm talking about here. You know, their bullshit documentation that they've been submitting and everything else like that. As we said before, part of the hidden agenda, but luckily we've managed to expose it before it got completely out of hand. So, and I know I'm not going to make friends after this, but I don't care. You know, I'm at the point now where the bullshit's got to stop. We've got to knock down, this has got to happen. If people out there want to come and visit South Africa in a couple of years' time and not be confused, think that they're in the back reaches of Zimbabwe, now's the time everybody needs to step up and say, this is what we're going to do, we support it. If they need to, if they were to make any sort of financial donation, however it will be, I think, Mel, you guys have set up a PayPal account on behalf of the Khoisan already, haven't you?
To comment to that, we are in the process of actually developing a website for King Kubaha, an official website where all the information goes on, and there will be a link to the PayPal, which obviously we want King Kubaha to have complete control over, and the link will then be added onto the website. We certainly don't want the funds going astray, especially not because this is important.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. And also, just Mel, one thing I need to ask you, I did discuss this with Baha as well. The on one of your pages that I was going yesterday, I noticed that there's a link to republicanparty.co.za. Can you please remove that link from your website? Because that stuff that is on there has got nothing to do with us.
That's not my website.
That was a website created by somebody with no authority to create it. And they were told today to please take it down, because there's a lot of information on there that is total horsemanship, to be perfectly honest. And things are going to be causing more of a divide. This is one of the things that has been of major concern with me as well, is that with these certain elements that are involved in, well, that were involved with the secession, are creating an atmosphere that should the secession not succeed, nobody's going to turn around and blame Kuba or the Khoi for it not succeeding. They're going to turn around and say it's the whites. And it's not going to be a case of it was that specific white guy that was running around talking crap and doing his own thing. They're going to think it's all whites. And unfortunately, that means it's going to be every Eurokaner, every single Afrikaner boervolk that is going to throw our relationship back 40 years.
Sorry, can I just stop you there?
And that's why those...
My apologies. I'm not sure what website you're talking about. We don't have any links to that party on any of our sites, I'm afraid to say. Well, unfortunately, we've never covered the Republican Party in any capacity.
Sorry, Ma, it's not your Republican Party. There's the to the Republican Party.co.za, because this guy in his brainwave that you create Republican Party.co.za to try and appease the Republican Party in the United States. Now, we also goes against everything that the secession is about, political manipulation.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying there. We don't have any links to that on any of our websites. If you can point me to the website, I'll most certainly have a look at it. But the only website that we operate for South Africa is Stop South Africa.
Yeah, it was on one of the links I got from Karin. Karin, sorry.
It may have been on Jeff Ren's.
Yeah, it's not us.
No, it's not on mine either.
But that's a good point. Well noted. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people. Sorry, Gordon, carry on.
I'm breaking up again.
Now, there's another thing I want to touch on tonight. There is so much rich cultural heritage left in South Africa, and it's all part of the Khoi San heritage and culture. And there's so many. Gordon, you touched on something about the whites being blamed. But you've met this friend of mine, and you know what he's been doing, and previously tonight we spoke about the skull. I would like to get, if there's a scholar out there, people with funding, and you want to see something interesting, look at this little skull baby I'm going to hold up here now. Okay? This might be older than Lucy. I want you to... Gordon's got pictures of it, and he sent it through to a friend. But we've been looking at this and been wondering, what the hell? Might this be older than Lucy? Things like that. If there's people out there and they seriously consider funding this project, there is so much rich heritage that we can explore, cultivate, and protect for the Khoi San. And I mean, like Chris said, we've got some of the best caves, that we've been protecting that can tell us about climate change and things like that. We are surprised that people haven't came forth with funding before. I mean, there's universities, there's people that would die for an opportunity to explore what we've been looking after. And that's part of what we were doing, protecting culture and heritage so it doesn't get plundered by the masses, so...
Absolutely, Gerhardt. I totally agree. I'm one of those people who would love funding to go and explore. I mean, I don't know if you know the work that I've done on the Khoisan and the Kalahari region, which was done about 6 months before this whole secession took place. I made a documentary film called Secrets of the Kalahari. And I would love the funding to actually come out there and properly film and document the finds and what this all means, because I've categorically proven the existence of the oldest and largest ancient advanced culture to have existed. And when I say an advanced culture, I mean some culture that's not hunter, gatherer, nomad, but actually engage in agriculture, are settled and engage in ritualized behavior. That is technically what defines people from being, primitive as opposed to being somewhat advanced and civilized. And we've got it there in the Kalahari, provable data from the University of Oslo in Norway. Professor Sheila Coulson, a friend of mine, has actually given me the data and given us an interview, and is one of the people who were on the archaeological dig at Sedilo Hills where they discovered some of this data. But no one has provided funding or come forward to further explore this. And I'm also like you. I'm like, why not? This is possibly the greatest find in human history, to identify the oldest and largest advanced civilization to have existed. And that's probably a pre-Diluvian civilization. This civilization existed before what is known in the Bible as the Great Flood. And evidence of this great flood impacting the west coast of Africa and coming over the Kalahari is also very, very evident. So we obviously would love to see all of this stuff happen so that we can further explore the many great mysteries and hidden caves and all the archaeological stuff, but also to preserve it. Because the area that I'm looking at actually spans across 4 different countries. And I've been to UNESCO to ask them, how do we go about preserving this very important archaeological discovery over 70,000 years old? And they were like, well, it's over 4 different countries. You'd need to go to each different country and get them to agree to preserve that particular patch, because the area we're looking at is actually the size of the state of Arizona, smack in the center of the Kalahari, going across Namibia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Botswana. But as of yet, no one's actually logged onto or fundamentally conscientized just how important this discovery is and why we should be looking at exploring it further, if not potentially looking at what's been done in the past and how we can ourselves utilize what was done in the past to, at the very least, end world hunger. Because we've identified a patch of land that was used as agriculture and that had the potential to feed up to 6 billion people. That's in the center of the Kalahari. That could end world hunger.
This is why this secession is so important to us, because, we are in a culture in South Africa where they plunder, where they destroy, and they just want to repossess without, they don't care. So this secession is so important for us because this is Khoisan heritage. And if ever they want to do this land reform or land claim with no compensation, this is going to be heritage lost by the Khoisan, never, ever to be regained again. Okay? And we shared with Kuba and Gordon and Jenny what rich cultural heritage we are preserving, and I don't want to give the location and I don't want to give anything information about it, but we took them there and we showed them pictures of what was done. And by this he's a white farmer, and he spent 33 years without any financial help and trying to protect this. And it's getting more and more difficult because the Black Townships is encroaching upon his property. They're on his border already. They're already breaking in. You know, they're sending their animals onto his farm and things like that. And we are trying to protect that, but we don't have the funding. So this opportunity is going to be lost to the world to explore this site. It's a heritage site that needs to be protected. Now, you know, I know we were asking for money for the secession, but in that long run, the idea is to protect the land. Okay. Geez, I wish I could share with you, Mel, the caves that's here with the reports from an Arizona university about these caves. It's deemed the most important caves in the southern hemisphere, okay, for climate change. Now we want to, with the secession, we want to protect heritage like that, because that's what Kuba says, you know, he is the custodian. So that's why we wanted to approach him and talk to him, because as custodian of the land and being Khoisan heritage, he would take priority in looking after his heritage. You see, because it's not just his heritage, in the end it's the whole world's heritage.
Absolutely. There is so much there and so much opportunity and potential that, you know, when this whole secession happened, so many pennies dropped. It kind of seemed like, you know, even the fact that we've got a prophecy about it, it kind of seems like this is the way it has to go. And this is why I wholeheartedly believe that money will become available. This is God's will. This is the way it has to happen if we are ever to come through this.
Yeah, definitely.
Karin, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah. Mel, I think I've asked everything that I needed to ask. I just want to, after the way forward, after we get the letter and we get UN recognition, the other thing that people are resisting is, how do they walk away from their farm, say in Limpopo province? Do they just lock the door and go to the Western Cape, and then what? For me, it is better to stand on your feet and start again, begin at the beginning, knowing that you are safe and there's a future for your children. But then people tell me, well, I'm safe in another country, so it's easy for me to say that. So how do you answer those people, either Gerhardt or Gordon? I don't have an answer for them because I'm not there.
Okay, Karin, that's an easy one for me to answer. Okay, let's take the Good Hope on the one side. And they say, listen, we are sick and tired of whites being murdered, land being taken away without compensation. Here we offer you, on this side of the border, we offer you safety, okay? No land redistribution, things like that, okay? And on the other side of the border, now you have all these farmers saying, you know, I don't want to give that up. But listen, the ANC has already made that choice for you. They said on the 1st of January, the EFF and the BLF said they're going to take land without compensation. They've already instructed their people, look for a piece of property. And property is not a farm, property is a house, you know. So when there's anarchy, the people are going to lose it in any case. So how difficult a choice is it to make, you know? When the Good Hope secedes, they're offering you a place of safety. Or you stay in a country where they want to rape you, plunder your farm, your house. They want to take it away from you. So in any case, you've lost it. So here, unfortunately, the people that decided to settle down here earlier, when they realized the shit is hitting the fan, the land is going down the tubes up in the north. And, you know, the guys, and I can understand them, you know, they've worked their whole lives. And in some farms, it's been there 10 generations. How do you expect a guy to give that up? How do you expect somebody to give up land that he loves, that he's worked for? So I don't expect those people to just up and leave, you know. But hell, at least they'll know there is a place for them. Should, like Rhodesia or Zimbabwe now, the DRC, the Congo, anything, history repeats itself. And people were murdered there and they fled south. Well, people, the bad news is you can't flee anymore south, but at least you can flee to the Good Hope. Okay, we are trying to set up another safety zone, or like we say in Afrikaans, die kaplyn. Okay, so that means with the Northern Cape, Western Cape, and the Eastern Cape seceding, at least the guys will know, hey, listen, there's still a ray of hope somewhere else.
Gordon, you were trying to say something? Did we lose him? I think we may have lost Gordon. Yes,
He's a big boy. Difficult to lose him.
I think, okay, he lost himself. We didn't lose him. Gerhardt, I agree with you, and I have used that same thing. You know, it's better to die on your feet fighting for something you believe in than to be raped to death in your bed because you're white. But then again, I'm not there. I'm not boots on the ground. So people always turn that back on me. And yes, it's easy for me to sit here in Texas and say, oh, well, I would fight for it. I'm not there. I'm not doing the fighting. I'm not the one being murdered. So it's nice to hear that from somebody who actually is there and somebody who is taking that same risk. And yes, people don't have to close their door and go down. This is the story. I'm going to have to leave my family's 300-year farm in the north and go there with an uncertain future and bow down to the Koch king. I think you have answered in this hour every single one of those objections to this thing, because you're not going to have to bow to the Koch king. And no, you don't have to leave. Nobody's got a gun to your head to say leave, but they do have a gun to your head if you stay.
That's basically it. I mean, let's say anarchy breaks out, like we are expecting soon, okay, this genocide. You're going to lose anything in any way. Like I've been telling people, listen, you've been preparing years and years, gathering up stock, water. You've been expecting a genocide for a long time. So what's the difference? Do you actually want to wait for them to break down your door, pull you out of bed, or do you actually want to make a move right now? Because some other time you're going to have to make a move. You know, they're not going to stop. They've over and over, they've proved. They've chanted it. I mean, look at this week. We protest over the murders, and what do? They increase the murder rate, you know, and then they put it out and they say, oh, murder is murder. It doesn't matter if it's white or black. I agree with that. But it's funny that if you look at 5% of 50 million, it doesn't make him a big dent. But take 5% of a nation that's only 100,000, 200, 300, 400, 500,000, that's a big dent. You understand? And if you look at the statistics, look how it's ramped up. I mean, in the past, 5 to 7 years, it's a steady increase of about 25% a year. You know, at that rate, we won't be any more Boers feeding these people. But don't worry, Zuma said you don't need farmers. You can just go to Checkers or Pick and Pay and just go buy off the shelf.
Yeah, go buy your food. Go buy your meat at Checkers because they don't harm animals, forest farmers do.
Exactly. What did he say? People don't need jobs. They need food on the table.
Yes.
Yeah.
So somebody's just going to give them food. They don't have to work for that food.
Yeah.
Gerhardt, just a couple of points. I would just like to add there, with that whole disorder thing with people having to move and all the rest of it, you know, if you look internationally at what's happened in places like Bosnia, what happened in Rwanda with the Hutus and the Tutsis and everything else, you know, people had to move. You know, that is also one of your greatest freedoms in the sovereign state of Good Hope, is your freedom of choice. So if you want to come down here, by all means, come down here, join the sovereign states of Good Hope. As long as you behave yourself, you'll be fine. But, you know, nobody's saying to you, pack up your farm and leave if you don't want to. It's not a forced resettlement of whites or coloreds or Khoi or anybody for that matter. It's just that this is what your option is. And it is the only tangible option that makes sense because of what is going to happen. The writing's on the wall. Everybody's seen it. We've seen, I mean, the statistics, if you look at just in South Africa's history, I mean, since 1994, there have been over 380,000 people murdered in this country. Okay, that's in 27 years. Hold on, Gerhardt, let me finish, please. Since 1948 up until 1994, with the supposed oppressive regime and all the rest of it, there weren't even 50,000 people killed. But yet in the last 27, over 380,000 people have been killed, and people seem to think that that's okay. You know, and this is where the other biggest problem has come in with people's thinking in this country, is that we started accepting that farm murders are okay, that they're going to break into your house and they're going to steal your stuff. If your wife or your kids leave to go to school or go to the shop to do whatever, you don't know if you're going to see them again. You know, it's worse than being married to a policeman because you don't know if that cop by the end of the shift is going to come home. And this is what's happening with a lot of and it's not just the whites that are thinking this. You know, the colors are thinking this. A lot of blacks that I've spoken to are thinking this, you know, that are sick and tired of this hatred that's going on in this country. And it's, you know, to a degree, yes, fine, fair enough. Apartheid was a Koch system. Nobody, you know, a lot of people didn't agree with it and everything else that went along with it. But, you know, sorry, I dropped this there. You know, there I am. You know, how much longer do you have to be responsible for the sins of your father, you know, so to speak? And, you know, as like I say to Gerhardt as a joke, but, you know, it's easy to make a joke of it now, but in all honesty, it's the God-sworn truth. I mean, me as an English-speaking white South African, doing an apprenticeship in a government department that was predominantly run by Boers, well, Afrikaners, so to speak, is we were always shanked for promotion because we were English. We were seen as the Rooinek. You know, then, you know, come along liberation and all the rest of it. We think, oh, like things are going to change. Now we get shafted just because we're white. You know, so we've been nailed twice. And now everybody's getting nailed because now everybody's white. And, you know, the thing is, people, like I said, it comes down to choice. If you don't want to live in the sovereign states of Good Hope, leave. If you want to live here, pull in. But if you're going to come down, you know, make sure you come down and you're going to add value. Don't come down and think you're going to start, you know, political parties and trying to overthrow things and try and with your own little agendas and everything else, because it's not going to work. Because Gerhardt can smell it a mile away, so can I. And, you know, so can a lot of people that are there. And, you know, one of my favorite expressions in the whole world is there's nobody more dangerous than somebody that overestimates their own intelligence. And this has been proven time and time again with this whole secession thing, with people that think that they are, you know, the most intelligent thing since creation, and it's been proved time and time again that they don't know what they're doing. But I think to come, you know, to the crux of it, I think what people need to realize, just to sum up briefly, is that this isn't an oppressive secession. There's nobody that's going to be put in concentration camps. There's nobody that's going to be kicked out of the country that's not rightfully supposed to be here. You know, everything is going to be fair. Everything's done according to law. And, you know, we wouldn't have gotten as far as what we've gotten now without some sort of divine intervention. Because as Gerhardt can attest, every other secession that's happened, in the country has never got as far as what this one has. And I think that's why there's that tiny little obstacle left that needs to be overcome and that needs to be gotten, and that is the letter of recognition so that it can be submitted to the United Nations and we can basically move on with everything and get it done.
Yeah, Gordon, I just want to say something. You know, when the Boers were oppressed, when the Brits came here the first time, okay, and they annexed the Good Hope. No, those
Scottish,
Boers,
not British.
Okay, I'm just saying, those Boers had the balls to get on their wagons. They had the balls to get on their wagons and move to the north to safety, where they felt it was safe. Now I'm saying the Boers better have the balls, like their forefathers, to pack up and move to another place of safety. It's all about balls. Do you have the balls to do what's right to protect your family? I mean, those people right in the beginning, they left everything behind and they took their ox wagons and they moved. You understand?
Yeah.
So I hope the guys up in the north and wherever they're stuck and they are in danger, realize that at least their families are more important than material stuff. Okay. And I know it's easy for me to say because I'm already in a Good Hope. You see. So it's easier for me to handle it. And I know it's going to be a bitter pill for those guys to swallow. But if you look at how many people have moved down to the southern parts of South Africa and the western parts and the Northern Cape, because it's safer, because it's a war zone up there. It's not safe anymore, you know. So I pray that the guys actually don't, you know, it's like the Lot, you know, when is it Job and Lot, when he had to leave Sodom, and the Lord said, Lot must not look back, and when she did, she turned into a salt pillar. This is what's going to happen. The guys will have to move out of Sodom and Gomorrah up in the north and come down here.
I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree with you with that. And the important thing there as well is that the guys need to understand that those farmers, tradesmen, whatever they are, that are going to be part of us. And you and I both know from the people we've spoken to that there is going to be a mass exodus down here. You know, from koi-colored, white, whoever is going to come down is going to come down. But what those guys also need to realize is that they're not just coming down and they're not just going to sit on the side of the road and go, okay, shit, what do we do now? You know, there is going to be support structures in place to assist those guys in reestablishing farms. To, you know, part of my mandate with development programming is we're looking at reintegrating a lot of training programs and stuff like that as well. But we're also looking at how people can relocate their businesses by having the least effect on, you know, their company turnover and things like that. We've earmarked places for industrial parks. Now, an industrial park can be put up in a couple of months, you know, depending on the supply and demand, so to speak. Well, on the demand, you know. So all of those things are things that we're having a look at, so that when the guys come down here, you know, with their trailers and whatever else, that they've actually got somewhere to go where they can actually start doing what they were doing previously. And I'm quite sure, Gerhardt, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the farmers, the Boerelaities in the Western Cape area are, well, with open arms, support farmers coming down to re-establish their farms, whether it be ground clearing or assisting with harvesting or with whatever it is, to get that guy up and running to make him productive. And that's also obviously where the governments, well, I hate using the word government, but the the cooperative governance, so to speak, comes into play, where all of your departments are minimalistic when it comes to bureaucracy. So, you know, everything that gets submitted we've earmarked every basic decision to have a 7 to 14 day on the maximum turnaround going through a department. So within 14 days, you've got to have an approval or a decline. And if you've got a decline, it's going to be motivated as to why it's been declined. So those farmers aren't just going to be coming down, and the people aren't just going to be coming down into nothingness. They will be assisted by the people of the nation of Good Hope to get them back on their feet again and to start over. But Gerhardt, like you said, it's going to take balls, and the guys have got to come.
I just don't want us to start making promises like the ANC that we can't keep. So,
no, but it's not a financial promise. It's not a financial promise. What I'm promising is that people are going to stand by them and assist them, whether it be emotionally, physically, whatever. I mean, you know, the Amish, God bless them, but you know, the way they raise a barn, the whole community comes and builds a barn. You know, that is the sort of assistance that I'm talking about. It's not, you know, that they're going to come down here and go, oh, bloody Varleys are coming to invade. You know, they're going to be coming in and seen as, okay, Mel, you might have to explain the Varley invasion thing to your viewers later. You know, that they need to realize that that's not going to be the case. It's going to be a case that they're going to be coming down, they're going to be welcomed, and they're going to be assisted, whether it, like I said, whether it be emotionally, physically, or within government's means, to help them get back on their feet again. Because the thing is, we are, you know, when you and I were talking about figures, Gerhardt, we were looking at 3.5 to 4 million colored Khoi and whites that are in the northern sector that are going to, in all likelihood, want to migrate down here. Now, that is a hell of a lot of people. You know, if you look at the Syrian refugee crisis, I mean, they've got 140,000 people marching. It looks like that sea's never going to end. Now, imagine 3.5 million people packing their cars, buckies, tractors, whatever they can move on, and want to, you know, come down. We're going to have to be able to do something with them. We will be able to do it. I'm quite sure we will. You know, but the bonus with that is that those people aren't coming down empty-handed. You know, they know what they're in for. Yes, they might lose the property and a couple of things they can't load on the trailer. But at the end of the day, it's their safety. Like Gerhardt says, it's their family, and it's their right to self-determination is what is key in this whole exercise.
It's what it's all about. It's about your family. I mean, if I can move my family to a place of safety and start over with nothing, I'd be happy, because at least I know they're safe. My next generation, my one son's lying on the couch there, and I mean, I haven't seen them in about a week, and I mean, I love them to bits, and I'm doing all this just for them, and that's what's most important for me. You know, yes, I'm already feeling I'm in the Good Hope and in a safer area, but still, there's people, my brethren, my brothers, people I love up there that I would like to get to a place of safety, and at least, or just at least have something to offer them, to say, listen, if the shit hits the fan that side, there is a place. Just come down. You know, I know, and I don't expect everybody to jump on their ox wagons and start up the horses and move down here on the first day, you know. But I'm sure once they see the secession, they've seen the documents is signed, they've seen everything is going on, there will be a huge support of epic proportions.
Well, I would want to thank you both very, very much for that incredibly inspirational talk that we've had tonight. It has cleared up so many questions that have been asked. And you've both answered them in a way that only South Africans can. The Barleys and the Volkswagens and dinosaurs. Only a South African can and will talk like that and will understand that. I had to mute my mic half the evening because I've been laughing so hard. It was like being at home again. And no matter where I am in the world, South Africa is my home. So apart from answering our questions, being very, very inspirational and very open, and holding out hope to white South Africans everywhere. It has been fun talking to you two, and I hope that we can do it again soon.
It was a huge pleasure, Karin, and thank you, Mel, for inviting me and having me. And well, hopefully one day we can meet and have
and some rusks.
You're not allowed to use your sock.
Yes, thank you to you both, Gordon and Gerhardt. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. And we'll definitely, whether it be behind the scenes or on air, we'll talk again because there's a lot to discuss and a lot of planning that goes forward into creating a new nation that's free and sovereign and that is geared towards a peaceful, sustainable, fair, just nation. And it takes a lot of different people to create that, but ultimately the true beauty of what we all want is that we all actually really want the same thing. We all want to be free. We all want to be happy, and we're all sick of the nonsense, the genocide, the suffering. We don't want that anymore. So people need to recognize that and unite on our common ground, get behind the secession and do what we can to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and more than money, we need prayers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Mel, Karin, thank you very much for that. It was, I'm just glad we could actually dispel some of the myths, part of some of the, for lack of a better word, bullshit that's out there, and actually get down to the brass tacks of it. And yeah, look forward to seeing you guys back home again soon. And yeah, good luck with all of it.
Yes. I look forward to coming home one day. Let me tell you, I think I've been homesick for the last 17 years.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure. Karin is always my esteemed co-host. You are amazing and do such a great job. And we love working with you. And we'll have you both back on Stop South African Genocide live on CCN at some stage. But for now, we're going to sign off and thank every viewer who has tuned in. Please, guys, get behind this cause. We really believe in it and believe that this is just one step in the right direction for the rest of the world to follow on. So for everybody's watching internationally, it's not just about South Africa. This is about you too. And that's it for us tonight, guys. We'll speak to you again. Take care. See you soon. Good night.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye-bye.
If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Mainstream media exists for the purposes of indoctrination and manipulation of public perception. The world of free and independent media is growing, and with the upsurge in information now available in the public domain, it has never been easier to access free and independent media. The exploration of this information resulted in an experimental project which would provide a fully supported space for researchers, whistleblowers, and seekers of all kinds to express themselves and educate the world. On the 1st of January 2015, Conscious Consumer Network was launched to the world. Nobody thought we would make it this far, but CCN is the longest running free and independent media network of its kind. CCN is a unique collaboration of hearts and souls, bringing you information from different perspectives to educate and inform. Since we started CCN, we have had only one desire, the pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world, and this has not changed. Having overcome many challenges over the last 2 years, CCN is here to stay, and we've got great things lined up for 2017. Help keep CCN on the air by supporting the 2017 Network Support Fund.